The message arrived on a Tuesday. Captain Olivia Grant was finishing her midnight shift at the Luna Command Center when the transmission cut through the usual background chatter of space communications. At first, she thought it was a technical glitch, the strange symbols flashing across her screen unlike anything in Earth's database. "Control, are you seeing this?" she asked, her coffee forgotten as she leaned forward. The symbols shifted, rearranged, and suddenly transformed into English. "Attention inhabitants of Sol 3. You have been identified by the Xanteri Empire. Prepare for assessment." Within hours, Earth's major powers convened an emergency session. The year 2089 had begun with humanity spreading through their solar system. Bustling Martian colonies housed over 30,000 people, while the underwater habitats of Europa explored alien oceans. Humanity had believed they were alone in their cosmic neighborhood. They were wrong. Admiral Kyle Bennett of the Earth Defense Fleet addressed the United Nations Security Council, his weathered face grim on the video feeds. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are not prepared for a hostile first contact. Our fleet consists of 27 vessels designed for solar system patrol, not interstellar warfare." The room erupted into panicked discussions until President Maria Rodriguez raised her hand. What do they want? The answer came 3 days later when a massive vessel materialized at the edge of the lunar orbit. It dwarfed humanity's largest space station, its hull decorated with what appeared to be battle scars and strange, glowing insignia. Commander Vexcor of the Xanteri Empire appeared on screens worldwide. A tall, bipedal being with iridescent scales and 4 amber eyes. "Humans of Earth," the translator rendered his clicking speech. "Your species has been cataloged as Class 3 developing world. The Xanteri Empire extends across 2,000 star systems. Your immediate surrender and integration will ensure your survival as a protected species." The silence that followed was deafening. In a secured bunker beneath Seattle, Dr. Alan Parker studied the transmission data. "Their technology is amazing," he whispered to his colleague. "But look at these energy signatures. They're using a variant of quantum field manipulation we theorized but couldn't stabilize." Admiral Bennett assembled his top officers in the orbital headquarters above Earth. Lieutenant Samantha Wright, the youngest tactical officer in the fleet, spoke up during the briefing. "Sir, they expect us to be afraid," she said, pointing to the Xanteri ship on the display. "But they've only sent 1 vessel. That suggests either overconfidence or limited resources in this sector." Bennett nodded slowly. "So what's your recommendation, Lieutenant?" "We play for time. Act intimidated while gathering intelligence. And," she hesitated before continuing, "we prepare a response they won't expect from a Class 3 species." On the 7th day, Earth transmitted its official response. Ambassador Frank Miller delivered a carefully crafted message of peaceful intentions while requesting time to prepare for proper integration protocols. Commander Vexcor granted them 30 Earth days. Behind the scenes, humanity united with unprecedented speed. Old enemies became allies, private space companies redirected their resources, and weapons platforms mothballed after the last war were quietly reactivated. In his private quarters, Admiral Bennett reviewed the deployment orders for Earth's modest fleet. "Are we really going to fight an interstellar empire?" he asked the empty room. His computer chimed with a message from Dr. Parker. "Breakthrough confirmed. Their shields can't handle our new graviton pulse. We can hurt them." Bennett allowed himself a small smile as he authorized the final evacuation of civilian orbital facilities. The Xanteri Empire had made a critical error in their calculations. They had underestimated human determination. The Xanteri battlecruiser Inevitable Dominance moved into Earth orbit on the 25th day of the grace period. Its massive shadow passed over cities like a solar eclipse, a deliberate show of power that sent civilians rushing to shelters. Admiral Bennett watched from the hidden command center beneath the Rocky Mountains as 5 smaller Xanteri vessels joined the flagship. "They're getting impatient," he noted to his senior staff. Commander Vexcor's face appeared on the main screen without warning. His amber eyes seemed to glow with irritation. Your time expires in 5 of your days, he announced. Our scans detect military preparations. This is disappointing. President Rodriguez maintained a carefully neutral expression. We are simply organizing our society to better serve the Empire. Vexcor's scaled face contracted in what humans had learned was the Xanteri equivalent of a smile. The Emperor grows tired of your delays. To demonstrate our resolve, we will now remove your Mars colony. The transmission cut. Moments later, alarms blared as the smallest Xanteri vessel broke formation and accelerated toward Mars. All ships maintain positions, Bennett ordered, though his knuckles whitened as he gripped his chair. We can't show our hand yet. On Mars, Colony Director Susan Miller received the emergency alert. Her team had prepared for this moment, and the evacuation tunnels were already full of people moving toward the underground bunkers. The colony's visible structures were mostly empty shells. Holographic projections maintained the appearance of normal activity while the actual residents hid below. The Xanteri ship fired a single energy pulse. The beam struck the main colony dome, vaporizing it instantly. Dust and debris scattered across the red landscape. Mars colony destroyed. Admiral, reported the communications officer, her voice tight. Xanteri are broadcasting the footage to every receiver on Earth. Commander Vexcor reappeared on screen. This is the price of defiance. You have 24 hours to surrender your planet, or we target your lunar settlements next. When the transmission ended, Dr. Parker rushed into the command center, his lab coat flapping behind him. They used the exact weapon system we predicted, he said breathlessly, pulling up data on his tablet. The energy signature confirms our theory. Their shields generate a temporal phase barrier that makes them practically invulnerable to conventional weapons. Lieutenant Wright studied the readings. But that same technology creates a harmonic vulnerability at this frequency. She pointed to a specific data point. We can exploit this with our graviton pulse generators. Bennett nodded. What about the Mars colony? Minimal casualties, reported General Patricia Howard. 97% of personnel made it to the subsurface shelters. The Xanteri don't appear to realize they mostly destroyed empty buildings. The Emergency Planetary Defense Coalition met an hour later. Representatives from every nation reviewed the final counterstrike plan. This is unprecedented in human history, said Chancellor Wei from the Chinese Federation. Never have all our nations united so completely. Bennett addressed the coalition plainly. Tomorrow, we either become slaves to an alien empire or we fight. Our odds aren't good, but humans have faced bad odds before. As the meeting concluded, Lieutenant Wright pulled aside a small team of officers. Operation Trojan is green-lit, she told them. While the main fleet engages their ships, your team will infiltrate the Xanteri flagship. Major Nathan Cole, a former Special Forces operator, nodded grimly. We've studied their ship layouts. If we can reach their command center, we can deploy the virus directly into their systems. Across Earth that night, military personnel kissed their families goodbye. Civilian pilots volunteered to fly defensive patterns. Former enemies shared meals and prepared to fight side by side. Dawn would bring humanity's first interstellar war against an enemy that believed victory was inevitable. They were about to learn otherwise. The Xanteri attack began at dawn. 3 warships descended on the Mars perimeter, their weapons charging to finish what they had started. The remaining vessels maintained Earth orbit, a constant reminder of the consequences of resistance. All stations report. Admiral Bennett commanded from the underground war room. Lunar batteries ready, came the first response. Europa defense grid active, followed another. Solar mirror array aligned, reported the Space Command. Bennett took a deep breath. Execute Operation Thunderstrike. What happened next shocked the Xanteri Empire to its core. The supposedly destroyed Mars colony erupted with activity. Hidden silos opened across the red planet's surface, revealing defense platforms that the Xanteri sensors had failed to detect beneath the iron-rich soil. Graviton pulse generators firing in 3, 2, 1, announced Dr. Parker. The human counterattack didn't use lasers or missiles as the Xantari expected from a Class 3 civilization. Instead, invisible waves of concentrated gravitational energy slammed into the Xantari ships. Their advanced shields, designed to stop physical projectiles and energy weapons, fluctuated wildly as the graviton pulses created microscopic tears in their temporal phase barriers. Commander Vexcor's voice boomed through the emergency channel. Impossible. Your species cannot possess this technology. The smallest Xantari ship began to list as its engines failed. The human defense platforms continued their barrage, methodically targeting the weak points Dr. Parker had identified. Meanwhile, in the shadow of Earth's moon, Major Nathan Cole led a team of 6 specialized operatives in a stealth vessel barely larger than a shuttle. While the Xantari focused on the Mars assault, Cole's team approached the massive flagship from its blind spot. "Docking clamps engaged," whispered Lieutenant Amy Foster, the team's tech specialist. "Cutting through the hull now." Using tools developed from studying Xantari debris, they created an entry point into a maintenance corridor. The team moved silently through the alien vessel, their suits designed to disrupt the ship's internal sensors. Back at Mars, the battle intensified. The Xantari recovered from their initial shock and adjusted their shields, but the damage was done. One of their warships lost power completely and drifted helplessly. "They're calling for reinforcements," reported the communications officer in Bennett's command center. "Quantum signals detected aimed toward the Galactic core." Bennett nodded grimly. "Then we need to finish this quickly. Activate the solar mirror array." In high orbit around Mercury, enormous reflective panels that had been disguised as solar collection facilities suddenly realigned. They focused the sun's intense radiation into coherent beams aimed directly at the damaged Xantari vessels. The concentrated solar energy struck the ships where their shields had been weakened by the graviton pulses. Hull plating superheated and melted, exposing critical systems to the vacuum of space. Meanwhile, Cole's infiltration team reached the central command deck of the Xantari flagship. They planted Dr. Parker's virus device on the main computer terminal. "Package delivered," Cole reported through their secure channel. "Initiating countdown." The virus spread through the flagship's systems in seconds, disabling weapons and communications. On the bridge, Commander Vexcor watched in horror as his control panels went dark. "What is happening?" he demanded of his officers. The main screen activated, showing Admiral Bennett's stern face. "This is Earth Defense Fleet. Your ships at Mars have been neutralized. Your flagship is under our control. Surrender now." For the first time in over 300 years, a Xantari battle group faced defeat. Commander Vexcor's 4 eyes blinked rapidly in disbelief. "The Emperor will send 1,000 ships to avenge this insult," he hissed. Bennett's expression remained unchanged. "Then we'll be ready for them too." News of the human victory spread quickly through subspace communications. Across the galaxy, subjugated species watched with growing hope as the mighty Xantari Empire tasted defeat at the hands of a world they had dismissed as primitive. The war had only just begun. The news traveled faster than the Xantari Empire could contain it. Across 17 sectors of space, the encrypted footage of their defeat spread from world to world. Beings who had lived under Xantari domination for generations watched in stunned silence as human forces disabled and captured elite Imperial vessels. On the planet Trilaxis Prime, Council Elder Zhurna replayed the recording for the 5th time, her 4 tentacle arms trembling with emotion. After 7 centuries, she whispered to her fellow council members, "Someone has stood against them and prevailed." 3 weeks after the battle, a strange vessel appeared at the edge of Jupiter's orbit. Unlike the aggressive designs of Xantari ships, this one featured organic curves and crystalline sensor arrays. "Unknown ship approaching," reported the Jupiter Defense Station. Not matching any Xantari configuration, Ambassador Lisa Chen was dispatched from Earth to handle the diplomatic encounter. Her shuttle approached the alien vessel cautiously, surrounded by an escort of fighter craft. "This is Ambassador Chen representing the United Earth Government. Please identify yourselves." The response came in perfect English. "We are the Trilaxian Confederation. We have monitored your conflict with the Xanteri. We wish to establish contact." The meeting took place on Europa's neutral station. Elder Jurina's translucent form shimmered under the station's lights as she faced the human delegation. "For centuries, the Xanteri have ruled through fear," she explained, her translator converting the harmonic vibrations of her speech. "Many worlds pay tribute and provide resources for their war machine. None dared resist, until now." Ambassador Chen listened carefully. "We only defended ourselves. We have no wish for galactic conflict." Jurina's upper tentacles formed what humans would later learn was a gesture of respect. "The conflict found you, Ambassador. The Emperor will not tolerate this defeat. Even now, he gathers his grand fleet." Back on Earth, Admiral Bennett and Commander Jack Russell reviewed the intelligence shared by their new allies. The holographic display showed hundreds of Xanteri warships mobilizing. "They're stripping defenses from their subject worlds," Russell noted, pointing to movement patterns. "The Emperor is committing nearly a third of their total forces." Bennett's face remained impassive, but concern showed in his eyes. "Can we stop a fleet this size?" The door opened as Dr. Parker entered with Elder Jurina and a team of Trilaxian engineers. "Not alone," Parker said, "but we might not have to." Over the next days, Trilaxian knowledge transformed human understanding of interstellar warfare. Their engineers helped upgrade Earth's graviton pulse technology, while human scientists adapted their own innovations to Trilaxian biocrystalline computing. At a secure facility in Antarctica, Commander Russell led a joint tactical team of humans and representatives from 7 species previously subjugated by the Xanteri. Each brought unique knowledge of Imperial tactics and technology. "Their command structure is rigid," explained Mevkor, a former Xanteri subject whose people had been forced to serve as Imperial navigators. "Emperor Draxel directly controls all major battle groups. If communications are disrupted, their response time suffers dramatically." Meanwhile, human intelligence officers debriefed the captured Commander Vexkor. Initially resistant, the Xanteri officer gradually revealed crucial information when he realized the extent of human adaptability. "You created functional graviton pulse weapons in months," he said with reluctant admiration. "Technology that took our scientists decades to perfect." Ambassador Chen's diplomatic corps expanded as more alien envoys arrived secretly at Earth. Each new arrival brought reports that the Xanteri Empire was growing increasingly unstable as news of their defeat spread. "Revolution brews on 12 worlds already," reported a reptilian spy from the Khazar system. "The Emperor blames commanders for incompetence rather than acknowledging human strength." On the eve of the expected Xanteri assault, Admiral Bennett addressed the combined Earth Defense Forces. Behind him stood representatives of 20 alien species, the beginning of what would become a galactic coalition. "Tomorrow we face an enemy that has terrorized the galaxy for centuries," he said simply. "They expect to find a primitive world, easy to crush. Instead, they'll find humanity standing with new friends, ready to fight for our shared freedom." Across the solar system, human and alien forces prepared for battle as the first wave of the Xanteri Grand Fleet appeared at the edge of Pluto's orbit. The real war was about to begin. 300 Xanteri warships entered the solar system in perfect formation. Their hulls gleamed with Imperial markings, weapons primed and shields at maximum strength. Emperor Draxel himself commanded from the super dreadnought Eternal Dominion, a vessel larger than Manhattan Island. "All ships maintain silence," ordered General Eric Murphy from the combined fleet headquarters on Titan. "Let them come to us." The strategy was daring in its simplicity. Human forces remained hidden behind planets, moons, and within asteroid fields. The Xanteri fleet advanced cautiously, expecting immediate resistance but finding only empty space. "The cowards flee before our might," Emperor Draxel announced to his commanders. "Proceed to their homeworld. We will make an example of Earth that the galaxy will never forget." As the Imperial Armada passed Mars' orbit, Dr. Diane Powell activated the quantum shield network for the first time. Invisible fields of energy linked Earth's defenses with those of their alien allies, creating an integrated system unlike anything the Xantari had faced before. Shield harmonics stabilized. Powell reported from her lab beneath Geneva. "Ready when you are, General." Murphy checked the tactical display once more. The trap was set. All forces, execute Operation Sunstorm. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries. The dormant human fleet suddenly activated, rising from hiding places throughout the solar system. But rather than engage directly, they deployed thousands of small drones that raced toward the Xantari formation. "Destroy those primitives," Emperor Draxel commanded with contempt. The Imperial ships fired, easily destroying hundreds of drones. But for each one destroyed, 10 more appeared, swarming around the Xantari vessels like angry insects. "They're not weapons," realized the Xantari tactical officer too late. "They're gravity disruptors." Each drone generated a localized gravitational field, microscopic but precisely targeted. As thousands activated simultaneously around each Xantari ship, the overlapping fields created impossible stress on their hulls and shields. The first Imperial cruiser buckled under the strain, its shields collapsing as hull plates tore apart. 3 more followed within minutes. Murphy watched the chaos spread through the enemy formation. Phase 2. Released the Trilaxian bioships. From Jupiter's orbit emerged vessels unlike anything humans had built. Living ships grown, rather than constructed, piloted by Trilaxian warriors eager for vengeance. They moved with impossible grace, their crystalline weapons firing pulses that bypassed Xantari shields entirely. Emperor Draxel's voice roared through the Imperial communication channels. "Hold formation. This cannot be happening." But it was. The carefully orchestrated Xantari battle group dissolved into disarray as ships tried to target threats coming from all directions. In Earth orbit, the human flagship Defiance led a sortie straight toward the Imperial super-dreadnought. Captain Olivia Grant, who had received the first Xantari transmission months earlier, now commanded the assault. "Graviton cannons locked on their command tower," reported her weapons officer. Firing sequence initiated. The massive energy pulse struck the Emperor's vessel directly. Its shields held, but flickered visibly as secondary systems failed. On Titan, General Murphy received updates from across the battlefield. 27 Xantari ships destroyed, 62 severely damaged, the remainder trying to regroup around their flagship. "They're calling for reinforcements," reported the communications officer. Quantum signals detected across 3 bandwidths. Murphy smiled grimly. "Just as we expected. Lieutenant Rodriguez, activate the quantum jammers." Throughout the solar system, devices based on Dr. Parker's research switched on, flooding subspace with interference. The Xantari calls for help dissolved into meaningless static. For the first time in centuries, Emperor Draxel felt fear as his ship shuddered under repeated human attacks. The primitives had somehow united with Imperial subjects, developed impossible technology, and turned his own tactics against him. "Order the reserve fleet to my position," he commanded. No response came through the jammed channels. The Emperor stared at the approaching human vessels with growing dread. This wasn't merely a battle anymore. It was a revolution. Captain Ryan Garcia stood on the bridge of the stealth vessel, Shadow Dancer, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace through the viewscreen. His small crew of 12 represented Earth's most elite special forces, hand-picked for what many considered a suicide mission. 5 minutes to exit point, announced Navigator Pete Wilson. Xantari homeworld will be in visual range shortly. The battle for the solar system had ended in stalemate rather than victory. While the human-alien coalition had destroyed nearly a third of the Imperial fleet, Emperor Draxel had escaped with his flagship and remaining forces. His parting message had chilled Earth's leadership. "We will return with a weapon that will burn your world to ash." Intelligence from their Trilaxian allies identified this weapon. The Star Killer, a massive energy device capable of inducing premature solar flares. If deployed against Earth's sun, It would render the planet uninhabitable within hours. Exiting hyperspace in 3, 2, 1, Wilson counted down. The swirling patterns vanish, revealing a massive blue-green planet surrounded by defensive platforms and orbital shipyards. Xantara, the Imperial Throne World, heart of the vast Xantari Empire. Stealth systems holding, reported Chief Engineer Melissa Young, her fingers dancing across her console. Their sensors aren't detecting us. Months of research into Xantari technology had paid off. The Shadow Dancer slipped past the outer defense grid, its hull coated with materials that absorbed rather than reflected scanning beams. Garcia turned to his second-in-command. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, are you ready?" Heather Rodriguez nodded, checking her equipment one final time. As the team's computer specialist, the mission's success rested heavily on her shoulders. "The Trilaxian intel gives us a 90-second window to enter the main control facility," she reminded the team. "After that, I'll need 3 minutes to access their network and locate the Star Killer command codes." The Shadow Dancer landed silently on the outskirts of the Imperial capital. Garcia's team deployed under cover of darkness, using modified Xantari transport passes to move through the city. The capital gleamed with towering spires and energy conduits, a showcase of Imperial might. Yet Garcia noticed signs of decay beneath the grandeur, crumbling infrastructure hastily repaired, too few maintenance workers, security forces stretched thin. "The Empire is overextended," he whispered to Rodriguez as they approached the Central Command Nexus. "They've committed too many resources to the Earth campaign." The infiltration went smoothly until the final checkpoint. A Xantari security officer studied their credentials with suspicious eyes. "These authorizations are correct, but I don't recognize your unit designation," he said, reaching for his communicator. Garcia nodded to Specialist Owen Baker, who activated a small device on his wrist. The security systems throughout the building flickered momentarily as the Trilaxian virus disrupted the power grid. In the resulting confusion, the team slipped past the checkpoint and reached the central computer core. Rodriguez immediately connected her specialized equipment to the alien interface. "I'm in," she announced after tense seconds of work. "Searching for Star Killer protocols now." Garcia positioned his team to defend the access point. "How long?" 2 minutes, she replied, eyes fixed on the alien symbols streaming across her screen. "Wait, something's wrong. The Star Killer isn't just a weapon. It's already deployed. Timer is counting down." Garcia felt cold dread. "To target Earth." Rodriguez shook her head. "No, according to these coordinates." Her eyes widened. "They're targeting their own sun." The realization hit Garcia like a physical blow. A trap. The Emperor is willing to sacrifice his homeworld to eliminate us all at once. Rodriguez worked frantically. "I can override it, but I need direct access to the Imperial command codes." "Which are in the palace," Garcia finished grimly. "Right where the Emperor expects us to go." Outside, alarms began to wail across the capital city. The team's presence had been discovered. Garcia made his decision instantly. "We continue as planned. The Coalition fleet will arrive in 6 hours. If we don't disable that weapon before then, everyone dies. Humans, Xantari, everyone." As Imperial guards mobilized throughout the city, Captain Garcia's team moved toward the Imperial Palace, racing against time to prevent a catastrophe that would eclipse everything in the war so far. The final confrontation with Emperor Draxil awaited. The Imperial Palace burned. Smoke rose from its eastern wing as Captain Garcia and Lieutenant Rodriguez fought their way through corridors lined with ancient trophies from conquered worlds. 3 minutes until the Star Killer activates, Rodriguez warned, clutching her data tablet. The override codes must be entered directly into the Emperor's command throne. They burst into the throne room to find Emperor Draxil waiting. The Xantari ruler stood tall, his ceremonial armor gleaming under the chamber's lights. Behind him, the massive viewscreen showed the Coalition fleet engaging the remaining Imperial forces in orbit. "Humans," Draxil's voice dripped with contempt. "You think yourselves clever, But you've walked into my final trap. Garcia raised his weapon. Call off the Star Killer, Emperor. Your own people will die. Some sacrifices are necessary, Draxel replied coldly. My loyal subjects have already evacuated. This world holds only those who failed me or questioned my rule. When your fleet arrives to save you, they will perish as our sun erupts. The loss of one planet is acceptable to eliminate the human infection. What the Emperor didn't know was that Rodriguez had already begun broadcasting every word through the planetary communication network. Across Xantera, Xanteri civilians heard their ruler condemn them to death. You speak of sacrifice, Garcia said, keeping the Emperor's attention while Rodriguez worked her way toward the command console. But you sacrifice others while saving yourself. Draxel laughed. Of course, I am the Empire. The palace shook as the first explosions reached the capital city. Not from orbital bombardment, but from the ground. Xanteri civilians rising up against Imperial forces. Your people disagree, Garcia said, gesturing toward the windows where crowds gathered in the central plaza. They've heard everything. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across the Emperor's face. He lunged toward Rodriguez, but Garcia intercepted him. The two crashed into an ancient war table as they grappled. 40 seconds, Rodriguez called, fingers flying across the Imperial command console. Garcia struggled against the physically stronger Emperor, buying precious seconds. Around them, the palace guard stood frozen, watching their infallible ruler fight desperately against a human soldier. Override accepted, Rodriguez announced finally. Star Killer deactivating. The Emperor roared in fury, throwing Garcia aside. Guards. Kill them. Not a single guard moved. Admiral Bennett's voice came through the planetary broadcast system. Emperor Draxel, the Imperial fleet has surrendered. Your orbital defenses are under our control. This war is over. Outside, the crowds had grown. Thousands of Xanteri citizens surrounding the palace. Among them moved representatives from dozens of formerly subjugated worlds, Sherlaxians, Khazar, and others who had suffered under Imperial rule for centuries. Garcia stood, bruised but unbowed. The age of the Xanteri Empire is finished. The transition happened with surprising speed. Within days, planetary governors across the Empire declared independence or pledged allegiance to the newly formed Galactic Cooperative of Free Worlds. 1 month later, Ambassador Lisa Chen presided over the first meeting of the Cooperative Council. Representatives from 87 worlds, including a delegation of reform-minded Xanteri, gathered to establish new principles of interstellar relations. We do not seek to replace one empire with another, Chen told the assembly. Each world must determine its own path forward. Admiral Bennett, now appointed Earth's first Galactic Security Coordinator, worked with former Imperial subjects to dismantle the Xanteri war machine. Weapons of mass destruction were neutralized, while beneficial technologies were shared among all member worlds. In the detention center outside the former Imperial Palace, Commander Vexcor met with Captain Garcia one final time. We believed ourselves superior to all species, the former Imperial officer admitted. Yet in mere months, humans accomplished what others could not in centuries. Garcia shook his head. Not because we're smarter or stronger, because we know what it means to stand together against impossible odds. As Earth established diplomatic missions across the galaxy, human scientific and cultural exchanges accelerated development on countless worlds. The feared invasion that had begun with an imperial threat had transformed into something unprecedented. A galactic community of equals, bound not by force but by shared principles of freedom and cooperation. The Xanteri Empire had made their first and final mistake. They had threatened the humans, never realizing they were awakening not just a species, but an idea that would change the galaxy forever.